Hello, everyone. How are you? And thank you for joining. Who is here so far? Kim Canadian. Well, hello. Hello, hello. Patrice, thank you for joining. Hello. Destiny Rose 420. Meep, meep. How are you? Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. I am so glad you're here. Candace is here. Hello, Candace. Tracy, hello. This is going to be fun. Hello, Dr. EMB. Thank you for joining. Sandra from Georgia. Oh, that's a beautiful peacock. Molly, thank you. Thank you for being here. DeWolf, hello. Hi, DeWolf. Salee Still Structures. Hello, Mr. Salee. And tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Salee Still Structures. Information below. And Carrie is here. Hello, Carrie. I know it's late. I'm happy that you're here. Suzanne, hello. What a cool picture. Look at you in your stunner shades. Alice in East Washington. Miss Harris. That's right. Let's keep this going. Miss Harris has encouraged me to do a lot of like the mud flood and everything. So it takes like a whole lot of like you hear people say things and you're like, okay, finally I get it. So I thank you, Miss Harris. You've been a big inspiration to me. Tam is here. Hello. Yes, Tam. I would say go ahead and take your snacks and eat them now before I start because I want you to put your tray tables up, put your seatbelts on until we get to a cruising altitude, okay? Because this one's going to be a humdinger. Jay is here again. Hello. Lisa's here. Nancy, you said it's cold in New York City. Oh, Lisa, stay warm. To Bon Bon Mama. Oh, I haven't seen you in a bit. You good? Teresita, hello. Raylene is here. I'm just getting my hellos in, everyone. Roxanne from Detroit. Allison. Oh, this is awesome. Sheila. Elisa, I'll try to go faster. Michi D, I love that. T. Witten's here. Oh my, this is going to be great. Jeff Bishop got in. Hello. Okay, so I did my hellos and I'll check in with you as we get going, okay? This one's going to be a humdinger. I hope you're ready. Hope I don't lose many friends. I've already lost one on Facebook. Ernestina in Buenos Aires. Hello, Ernestina. Thank you for joining today. Sienna. Hello, hello. So, okay, I have lots of notes. I'm going to get my notes together. Okay, so for this particular live stream, you know, I titled it Passing, Imitation of Life, Passing. So this is going to be a pretty controversial subject for some. I mean, not for everybody. I think if we're honest, we know that these are conversations that happen in hushed tones sometimes. And because we have this weaponized culture, a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking about issues of race. But I want to be very front attacking, you know, full frontal attacking of the race narrative because I'm ready for it to be over, aren't you? And the way to get it out of here and for us to get beyond it, we have to talk. That's the main thing they don't want us doing is talking and engaging with each other, finding out that a lot of this stuff has been created, right? 420, much love to you. Thank you for being here. Marlena, hello. Nancy, hello. Yes, I put in some work with this one too. This is very important. I really believe it. It's something that is near and dear to my heart because I have grown up observing these things and trying to sort them out, trying to be honest about them and have conversations when people are willing to be honest. Love, laugh, live. I'm dark black, so I could never pass. Okay, that's okay. Yes, Sharon is here. Thank you for showing up, Sharon. Yes, you said, Miss Harris said the other night you warned me to put my drink down, and I paused for a minute. And sure enough, at that Let's Go, Brandon, I lost my drink. I try to be I try to give you warnings, okay? So when I tell you that in the future, I don't want you to mess up your drink, okay? Just put it down for a minute, not for a long time, or I'll just try to tell you when to take sips before it gets bumpy, okay? But this one's going to be a little bumpy, okay? I'll try to give you a heads up right now. Adam's here. Ideology has no color, can't take things for is that, oh yeah, face value. A race war is impossible. Yes. Well, you know what? I have hair on my lip. You have to excuse me. You know, you can just feel it. It's annoying. Gemini love, hello. Yes. So Victoria Green, hello there. Yeah. So, okay, let's just jump in. Okay. Christine says, us Libras love to talk about the elephant in the room with diplomacy, of course. That's right. We love to point out the elephants in the room. We're like, did you see that? You know, but we'll tell you in a, like she said, a diplomatic way, as diplomatic as we can be. Hello, Anne. Thank you. And Cece Nixon, hello. Thank you for joining. Okay, so, tell me how many people are familiar with the movie Imitation of Life, because we're going to be talking about Imitation of Life, the movie. And you know, I put on my mud boots and I went digging around and I found some things, okay? You know, when you dig, you're going to find stuff, right? Yes, I can pass as Negrescence. Can pass as Negrescence, Emily. Wow, look at that. Oh my, that's awesome, Molly. All right, you're familiar with it? Okay, Lori's here. Hi, Lori. You're not familiar with the movie? Anne has seen the Lana Turner version. Okay. Yes, the Lana Turner. You said this is your mom's favorite movie? Wow, look at that. Think Mirror, hello. This movie was one of my mom's favorites, you too. And she would cry her eyes out. There you go. Bam. I want you to remember that she would cry her eyes out, okay? So that is very key to this genre, okay? All right. I see we have a troll, and I let me get this troll out of here right now. And again, I'll figure out how I can do moderation, because it's harder to do it from StreamYard. Unless you can drop it in there and tell me, I can mod somebody up, okay? All right, so let's see. You haven't seen it in a long while? Yes. Lori says you've never seen the movie, just bits and pieces. I always seem to catch the ending on TCM. Hey, Jim. Hello, and thank you for joining. Okay, so I'm going to jump in and just begin like I said I would do. I got a little distracted. Okay, let me make the screen a little bigger for you so you can see the slides better. Okay, Imitation of Life in passing. I happened to see a new movie that just came on. It was released this year, called Passing. Okay, now Passing and Imitation of Life are very similar, as you can imagine, and I will show you just how I see these connections. Okay, so I didn't want to give Netflix any attention, but I wanted to, for research purposes, watch this particular movie. So I want to talk about the Great Migration really quickly. You know how we talk about historical narratives, the Great Migration. So this is going to tie into why you got to see the Harlem Renaissance, and you had a lot of Black people move from the South to the North for the Industrial Revolution. So let me just go over the Great Migration. Have you noticed how they give these things the Great? So the Great Migration is also known as Great Northward Migration or Black Migration. Okay. They have no bones about that this was targeted for Black people in America. It was the movement of, and everybody who takes note of numbers, it was 6 million African Americans out of the rural South to the urban Northeast, Midwest, and West. And it occurred between 1916 to 1970. It was caused primarily by the poor economic conditions, as well as the prevalent racial segregation. This is going to be very key, and discrimination in the southern states where Jim Crow laws were upheld. Okay. The historic change brought about migration. It was amplified rather because the migrants, for the most part, moved to the then largest cities in the United States, which would be New York City, Chicago, or as my mother says, Chicago. That's accepted too. Detroit, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. Okay, and that's as far as I'll go right now, because I'm sure I could go really into this a whole lot more, but I just wanted to touch on it because as you see various, narratives of history and the combination to the Harlem Renaissance. And again, let's look at pictures with a critical eye. If you look at the picture of these Black migrants, they look like kind of, ragtag. They're kind of disheveled. We're being honest. We're not being mean. We're just, what you see objectively is you don't see people that would fit into the Harlem Renaissance just yet. They don't have the look of that cafe society and, that kind of Art Deco era that was going on from the 20s. Okay. So they were migrating just in time for the roaring 20s. So I just wanted to make note that they look a little bit dusty. So this was I want to also take note of architecture, because architecture was very key to putting together a timeline of sorts. And this is some architecture from Harlem, New York. I don't think this building is still standing, as many buildings have been taken down for various strange reasons. So that would have been around the time of this period migration. So this would be Harlem. As you can see the cars, and you could denote about the time on the timeline. You see if you notice little details, you'll see the metal. It's a canister, and that was for the milk delivery, is my guess. And you can see this amazing red stone and amazing brown stones. Well, I want to dig more into the brownstones at another time, because I'd love to do, like I said, city by city and deal with architecture. I'd love to do more in terms of the Harlem Renaissance. So just stay tuned as I do more with, just more detailed work. And so these are the most amazing structures in New York, these brownstones. And you'll see them all throughout, not just Harlem, of course. You'll see them all through Manhattan, as well as the other boroughs. You'll see them especially in Brooklyn, so in the Bronx, and, that's all of Manhattan, but, the boroughs, the 5 boroughs, with Philly being the 6th borough. And then here's more of that Tartarian architecture, beautiful stones. And this is just a little bit of imagery, photography. We're talking about people posing, and you get a feel for what it must have looked like around this time. Okay, so just take note of these pictures. I'm looking at a row of little boys, in the front of the picture. And that struck me because I'm looking at things differently. I wonder what is the story behind those little boys, you know? It just, you know, they don't look like they match with the people. So maybe it's an orphanage. That's my first glance guess. If you know anything about that picture, you can tell me if you know anything regarding that particular picture. Now, I wanted to share this only because we think that progressive things happen only in modern times, but I want to point to that it was a lot of entertainment, and it was just a time for arts and, you know, performances, theater. All the world is a stage. So it was very important to the Renaissance to showcase lots of talents in terms of music and dancing and literature as well. Lots of poets, and you could probably name a few. Lots of writers like Langston Hughes, and just a lot of Black intellectuals came out of that era. So when we think about LGBTQ issues, and like I said, when we do a retrospect into this history narrative, you'll see that there's repeats, it repetition. You know, they say history repeats. I'm starting to understand that a little bit more. So these are two lesbians to the right. Those are two lesbians. And you can see in the middle, that's a woman who's dressed more in masculine attire. So this is back in the 1930s, okay? And they don't look like they're being, you know, bullied, or I'm not going to say nobody has been bullied, but I'm just saying they are in show business and accept it, because I forget the one lady's name right in the middle, but she was very very popular, very famous in Harlem. So I just want to say, Gladys Bentley. Thank you. You are really good. Look at that. Gladys Bentley, if you want to look her up, she was, you know, big in this time frame. So I'm just saying, like, you know how they try to say that Black people are really not accepting of LGBTQ groups? I want to just challenge that that's all being weaponized, and, you know, they foment the division. I don't have to keep saying that. So I just want to say that this is something I found rather telling. And here you are, you see this very classic picture of the showgirls, you know, and they, you know, that was big during this time, showgirls. And you can imagine young girls dreaming of becoming a showgirl on Broadway or wherever else they had these shows. And a glimpse at the various people in Harlem. Now, I see no difference in the way these people dress and look compared to white people in this time era. So I'm just saying they're not doing too bad. They definitely don't look like the people from the picture I said they look dusty from the Great Migration. Now, these people look shiny, not dusty. They're just the opposite of dusty, okay? They look like flappers, and look at the children. And then the men are dapper. They started calling men dapper. And I think there's another name for the fashion. What are they called? Does anybody? Dandies. Is it dandies? Am I using the right term? Yes, they took pride in their appearance. Adam says that he's dusty. Are you? You're not dusty. Stop it, Adam. Hey, Tina, all dressed very nicely. So I'm bringing this up because I want our eyes to focus on what you are seeing as opposed to the narrative, so we can each put this together in our own mind and discern what is going on, from the things that they told us to the things that, you know, you see and you've heard. It doesn't add up all the way. But again, I just want to show you that they looked pretty well-to-do, fancy. And this era is, and I bring this up to go, we're going to go retrospect. We're going to jump back and forth, back to the future. Okay. So right now, you will see in our current times that the Harlem Renaissance is very popular. People have weddings that are Harlem Renaissance themed. They have birthday parties and all kinds of things that are themed as the Harlem Renaissance. So this is a current picture to let you know that this is really, it's popular, and it has connotations of aspirational Black people, intellectuals, and very well dressed and well traveled, well spoken, well educated, all of that. Okay. And you could see here that the Cotton Club was very popular. Cab Calloway, which I didn't grab a picture of him. I'm gonna touch on this, and I'll talk about Cab Calloway because I picked up on some things about him. So you see that his name is in lights. He's very important to this whole Harlem trope or whatever. So you see the musicians, I was about to say magicians, same thing, right? But the musicians out front, they are white musicians. And you've often heard that white and Black people mixed, and they were all going to the same restaurants, and they were getting along. And for goodness sake, somebody was getting along with all of these, mixed race people. Somebody was getting along very well. And we heard a narrative that all of this mixed racing happened because of slavery and the raping of Black women. And I'm just saying that since I am able to unravel a lot of these narratives, that's also one that I'm going to go into that at another time, but I'm just going to say, don't believe it. I don't believe it. And that's my personal take. You say you like Minnie the Moocher. So oh yeah. How about that? Yeah. So he was just very key. And you can see the dancers there. And yeah, looks like a couple of them are in blackface, if you can see that. But they're Black in blackface. I'm not going to try to worry about that right now because it's probably going to be another rabbit hole. But anyway, you also see Eddie Murphy. Remember, we talked about Eddie Murphy with Coming to America. And we can see that Eddie Murphy is very important to a lot of scripting. He was used to cast imagery through cinema for a lot of scripting that would be important, I see. So I say that Eddie is pretty knowledgeable about hidden things, I'll say. And you can fill that in. So you see Jasmine Guy, she was the lead, his opposite, I think. I don't remember the details of the movie. If you want to correct me, like I say, you're welcome to do that. But I think that she was the lead woman in Harlem Nights and his love interest. So she was somebody that also, she was used in another, era in terms of the mixed race Southern belle. She was on a TV show called, it was the Cosby Show spinoff, A Different World. So she was on that show. Whitley. Yeah, Whitney or Whitley. Which was it? Whitley or Whitney? Gosh, I haven't been keeping up with all of my popular culture. But anyway, this is something that you can take note of. You see, it's called Harlem Nights. It's in that Cotton Club era, the gangsters, all the things that are glamorized and romanticized. It was Whitley. Thank you. You all know your stuff. Whitley. Hey, Golden Chris. Whitley. Whitley. Anybody who was wondering, DeWolf, thank you. Whitley. You got your people right. Okay, so Whitley. And the whole issue of passing this term, And I will dare to say that it wasn't used prior to the 1930s when this book right here was written by this woman. Okay, so it says Passing, and her name is Nella Larson. Okay, so like I told you, there were a lot of important artists, important authors. So this woman right here, I want you to realize this is the person who crafted this entire phenomenon. And these movies are based on her book. Has anyone read her book or heard about her? Because I never paid attention much to, you know, I didn't know they even had a book called Passing, to be honest, because I lived in a doggone reality where people were passing. So I guess I didn't need to read the book. Yeah. So anyway, let me just tell you a little bit about Passing. Okay, it is a novel by American author Nella Larson, first published in 1929, set primarily in the Harlem neighborhood of New York City in the 1920s. The story centers on the reunion of two childhood friends, Claire Kendry and Irene Redfield, and their increasing fascination with each other's lives. The title refers to the practice of racial passing and is a key element of the novel. Claire Kendry's attempt to pass as white for her husband, Jack or John Ballou, is a significant depiction in the novel and a catalyst for the tragic events. Okay. Larson's exploration of race was informed by her own mixed racial heritage and the increasingly common practice of racial passing in the 1920s. So you can pin this issue and phenomena starting in the 1920s. Prior to that, nobody did this kind of stuff. This had to be created in terms of the social phenomenon. Praised upon publication, and I want you to, not trying to make this longer than it has to be, but remember I said I will use Wikipedia. So I'm going to kick Wikipedia when I start doing these unravelings of history, and I'm going to remind me to hit the hyperlinks too sometimes, because I'm finding little golden nuggets in those hyperlinks. Who's here? Who just came? Johnny Borealis. Hello, you never heard of this? So fascinating, isn't it? It's very fascinating. Golden Crisp, I never read it, but my sister had it on her shelf. Okay. I've never even seen the book. This is so amazing now. Juan Calderon. I called you John. Juan, well, I'm glad you're here. You're here with us. We've missed you. Where have you been? You've been ignoring us. Okay, so Nella Larson, where was I with the passing thing? Okay, so like I said, this is what I want to say about it was praised. Why was a book like this praised? Okay, so just note those words. Praised upon publication, the novel has since been celebrated in modern scholarship for its complex depiction of race, gender, and sexuality, and the book is the subject of considerable scholarly criticism. As one of only two novels that Larson wrote, the novel has been significant in placing its author at the forefront of literary canons. Can you imagine? Canons. So the novel was adapted to this current movie on Netflix called Passing. Okay, so I wanted you to see that there is a origin to these things, and we will start to understand what is going on. Okay, so let me go on. Now, Imitation of Life. Okay, for those that you said this was your mom's favorite movie, Imitation of Life was a novel written by Fanny Hearst. So this is Fanny Hearst. Greetings. 8 Wind is timeless. Thank you. Glad you're here. Let's see. Mitzi says, hey, Jen, sometime in the future, please do a deep dive. The American Native Indians, please. They are still so important to this whole story. Yes, thank you. I sure will. That is definitely something I want to look into more. You have that movie one? Which one do you have? The first one or the second one? Let us know which one you like the best. Okay, so this author, Fanny Hearst, let me tell you about Fanny. Okay, Fanny Hearst was born in 1889. You know, we like that 1800s. A lot of interesting things happen. So she was an American novelist and short story writer whose books were highly popular during the post-World War era. Her work combined sentimental romantic themes with social issues of the day, such as women's rights and race relations. Okay. She was one of the most widely read female authors of the 20th century. And for a time in the 1920s, she was one of the highest paid American writers. Hearst also supported a number of social causes, including feminism, no surprises, African American equality, and New Deal programs. No surprises, right? Okay, although her novels, including Lummox, Backstreet, Imitation of Life in 1933, lost popularity over time and were mostly out of print as of the 2000s. They were bestsellers when first published and were translated into many languages. So I want you to see that even though the world, I don't know, why would they be translated in so many languages? It just seems a little odd to push something like Imitation of Life into many languages. She also published over 300 short stories during her lifetime. Hearst is known for film adaptations of her works, including Imitation of Life, Four Daughters. So she did 2 Imitation of Lives. So yeah, her novel inspired 2 movies, okay? So let me just get this clear. Imitation of Life was first released in 1934. The second version of Imitation of Life was re-released in 1959, okay? So let me just see what Hearst was from Ohio. And let's see. Her parents were assimilated Jewish immigrants from Bavaria. She had she attended Washington University. I'm just skimming through here. Okay. In her spare time, Hearst attended night court sessions and visited Ellis Island and the slums, becoming, in her words, passionately anxious to awake in others a general sensitiveness to small people. What? To small people, and developing an awareness of causes, including the lost and the threatened. What does that sound like to you? That's a weird thing. Raylene, you said Lummox. My dad used to call me Lummox, not flattering. I wondered where that came from. Oh, really? Oh, so hey, Shawnee, thanks for joining. Yes, very interesting topic. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Okay, so Fanny Hearst. So we get to see what is the mindset behind somebody who would write Imitation of Life. Okay, so I want to talk about passing first. And let me play a little excerpt of it so you can get a feel for how it was shot. Okay, and let me stop the screen and share. I'm gonna share just a couple of scenes from the movie. Has anyone watched this one? Tell me if you have. Called Passing. Give you a little feel for how this is shot, you know, how beautifully you'll see the architecture. And again, it's that architecture that now I am really, yeah, I saw that troll, Sharon. I got rid of him. He put so many things in the comments. It was like, good night. Okay, so I don't know what's going on. It's the same type of troll from earlier. So I guess they created a new account or have lots of accounts. Hi, Ari. How are you? God bless you too. So that's a feel for how this is shot. It's shot in more of the black and white, so you feel like you've transported back in time. Okay. So these two friends, let me put my slide back up. Think Mirror, you think you'll watch it? Okay, so it's based on, again, that book that I mentioned. And you notice the Drayton Hotel had that Antiquitech, very beautiful. So if you gather, and I'm not going to give too much away for those that want to watch it, whiteness is coveted, and, you know, it denotes what, you know, is happening. In order to attain a better life is to pass for white if you can. And it seems that, the one on the left, her name is Renee or Irene, and she's married to a black doctor and lives in Harlem. The one on the right is Claire, and she passes for white, and she's married to a white man who doesn't know that she's passing. And they knew each other from Chicago. So, you know, it you know, dealt with their friendship and the complexities of women and the competition that women go through that can be very, very cruel, as you know, all women. So this woman, Irene, who lives in Harlem, she does charity work and she's involved with the NAACP. A lot of issues come up in terms of racism in the movie. They bring up, let's see. The N word, I'll just say, is mentioned. And lynching is mentioned. And Josephine Baker was mentioned. And this couple, her and her husband, talk about even leaving the country because of the racism. So they talk about moving down to Brazil or somewhere in South America to get out of America. So that is something that, you know, I'll just say for now. I don't want to give too much away. Gemini Love, you said you could feel the actress's nervousness in trying hard to pass. Yeah, for her, without giving too much away, she can pass if she wants. So it's an option for all of them, but she pretty much just wanted to, I don't know. I really don't know why she was there at the Drayton, because they bumped into each other. So it wasn't a planned meeting, but they bumped into each other at the Drayton. So let's see. But jealousy and competition, okay? Jealousy and competition were things that I noticed. And attention being social currency, and basically wanting what someone else has, the grass being greener. Okay. So I don't want to give too much away for those that want to watch the movie. Hello, John Dowling. That is so nice. Merry Christmas in Christ and Happy New Year to you. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you for showing up. All right, so there you are. These are the two women, and the one that passes for white, she pretty much still craves her old life and identity. So you can see that, when you're not being true to yourself, it causes problems. It doesn't bring happiness like you initially thought it would. And so, I want to bring up the NAACP because they're very critical in creating this history. And I have a very strong mistrust for the NAACP. When you learn about its inception and who started this society, this group, I don't know what you want, social justice, racial justice, I will, share my opinion about them at another time, but they're problematic. So in the movie, the one called Passing, it's one scene, and I had to look this up, where Irene was in bed reading a magazine, and she was more militant, like, more than her husband maybe, but in a different way. She wanted to be like high class about trying to, get involved in racial issues. But she was reading a magazine called Crisis. And this magazine is basically the magazine of the NAACP. But don't you find it to be a problem that it's called Crisis? So I can see the strong programming, very, very strong programming that has been done on Black people. So there are quotes. This is W.E.B. Du Bois, who is on the cover. He looks a lot like Stalin to me. I don't know why. He looks like a little bit of Stalin in that picture, but it says the problem of the 21st century is the problem of the color line. So they just perpetuate this narrative, and it's very problematic, and we're going to have to really call them out because they've caused a lot of problems, and I'm over them. I'm completely over them. So this is the basic, one of the issues that now I question how this all came to be. But you probably heard of this incident that happened with the children integrating the school system, right? So you've heard about this. We had to learn about these things in school. And this is part of what they do to cause a lot of trauma and re-traumatize people. So this is, does anybody know their history? Look at me. I have to look. It's the something 9. Why did I forget it? Anybody want to help me out? What is this picture of? You could already tell I'm unlearning this stuff because I need my notes to even recall this. And I'm glad. I don't want this to be in my head anymore. Does anybody remember who these 9 are? Come on, throw it down there. The something 9. Yeah, Sean. Yeah, Lisa. Marxists. They really are creating the victim narrative. Yes. Okay, so I guess you guys would fail the history test with me, right? Come on. What 9 are they? The Little Rock 9. Thank you, Thomas. Thomas is the only one who would pass the test. The Little Rock 9. So this was what they called these 9 children. Okay. Hey, Vincent, huge mind control programming and victim mentality. W.E.B. Du Bois was a Boule member. There you are. The Little Rock 9. You looked it up, Johnny. Okay, so the Little Rock 9, this was something that I believe the second Imitation of Life movie was made right before, note the date, 1959. It was done right before the kickoff of the civil rights movement. So I see now why they did things so they could get the, energy and everything to go in one direction. So this is, building up to this. In this movie, the Imitation of Life was so key. So key. Okay, so I'll just let you know. So the Little Rock Nine, just real quick, was a group of 9 African American students. And by the way, African American wasn't used back then. Negro was used. On my birth certificate, it says Negro. Okay, so you see how they play around with identity. They move the, goalposts. They change the names. Like, this is what they do to keep confusion. But this is Wikipedia, so we have to, of course, take it with a grain of salt. But I'm just saying, why change it from Negro to African American? Because it's so stupid. They didn't even think it out. Because a white person from South Africa could move here and they are technically African American. So there you are. They're not real bright when they come up with this stuff. Okay, so they were 9 African American students enrolled in Little Rock Central High School in 1957. Their enrollment was followed by the Little Rock Crisis. Isn't that funny? It's called Crisis. And then the magazine for the NAACP is called Crisis. Oh, I'm sure it has nothing to do with anything. It certainly won't influence anyone. In which the students were initially prevented from entering the racially segregated school by Orville Faubus, the governor of Arkansas. They then attended after the intervention of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. So the U.S. Supreme Court issued its historic Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. Okay, so this is tied to the 14th Amendment. Okay, and I won't go any more than that. But, oh yeah, maybe I will. The decision declared all laws establishing segregated schools to be unconstitutional, and it called for the desegregation of all schools throughout the nation. After the decision, the NAACP attempted to register Black students in previously all white schools in cities throughout the South. In Little Rock, Arkansas, the school board agreed to comply with the high court's ruling. Okay, so do you see that this is really, I can see the social engineers and I see the timelines right now. I totally see it. Okay, so look at the picture, because photography, it tells us everything. Look at how angry and the hateful looks on the faces. And it's just, oh, I can see why we've had all these problems. And this has affected everybody. I mean, people have had feelings about the other group of people based on their interpretation of this narrative. And you can see where these children were really, they were entering into society, becoming iconic. And look at that. They don't look like they're children that are, suffering in any way. You can look at them and they look a little bit Jack and Jilly, a little bit Boulay-ish, right? Yeah, so I'm just saying, it's just something I'm observing. So this is the school, and look at all the angry masses outside. So the school was closed by order of the federal government. So this was a pretty tumultuous time. And look at the architecture of the school. Just want you to notate that architecture is throughout the narrative. And look at the signs. Race mixing is communism, one sign reads. Stop the race mixing. March of, I don't know if it says the Antichrist. Race mixing again is communism. Have you ever seen anything like this? Because this was new to me. I didn't know that race mixing was communism. Wow, color me confused. And then we have someone iconic from this time is Josephine Baker. And I'm starting to see that Josephine Baker is quite an actress. You know, I mean, her impression upon many people, it's sort of like the whole maybe Marilyn Monroe. I named my cat Josephine after Josephine Baker, who had a cat, by the way, a very exotic cat. She had a cheetah that she would walk on a leash. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So Josephine Baker is very important to this whole era and moving into the civil rights era. So you can see her narrative is she was treated so poorly in America that she went to Paris, and that's where she became very, very famous and loved. And she adopted a rainbow tribe of children. So, you know, Angelina Jolie is not first. History repeats. So she had lots of children, okay, that she adopted. And as you can see, she was very, I would say, progressive. I'll be nice. Very progressive. And she was sort of a clown. A lot of her performances were funny. So she can go from funny to serious. And that is interesting to me that she's so versatile that way. And if you look at who she's singing to, it's a room full of white people. So this is my disconnect with a lot of them. They talk about white people being so bad and so this, but yet this is your audience at the same time. So I call hypocritical. I call something's not right here. Okay. If you see the trolls coming back, just let me know. So I looked at this picture in a different way of Josephine Baker in a top hat. And a lot of people, I find pictures of lots of people in top hats. And to me, when I look at a top hat, I think of magic. And what comes out of the top hat but a rabbit? And we've heard a lot about rabbits, haven't we? Betty Daly, hello, sister. Thank you for coming by. John says we live in a world full of lies. That's right. And it's time to expose them all and just let everything crumble. Their fake world. We won't participate in it. Kim says, I'm not a troll. Of course you're not. Hi, Kim. Magic, Molly, right? Isn't that what you think? Magic. So something is going on. Hold tight. Here we go. Okay, this is Josephine Baker, who delivered a very impassioned speech at the first March on Washington. Okay, this is kicking off the civil rights. And you can see her on the cover of Jet magazine. And I guess she was accepted by Black America. So when she came back, she's very decorated. And I want us to take note. Does anybody know what's going on with these medals that you see? Can anybody tell me what is going on with the medals? Because I didn't see it before. My new vision is helping me to see things right away. Follow the white rabbit. What's going on with these medals? What do you see? Was she in the military? I don't know. Was she in the military? I'm just wondering what's going on with these medals, but she's very medaled. So I'll move on, but just take note. Yeah, I guess she was, right? She's some form of military. I think she helped with the French resistance, and she was, you know, a hero over there in France, you know, during the war. And she did some spying and things, which is kind of interesting when you think about some of the things we hear about the actresses, the celebrities. Do you think they just stopped using them after Josephine Baker? I mean, she's being used by militaries. So there you are. I'll do a special on Josephine Baker at another time. Now, this is a man I want us to focus on, okay? This is the man who took the book and turned it into the movie. So I want you to look at him, and I'm going to read Wikipedia. Let's kick the wiki and let's open up some hyperlinks if we need to. Okay, so let's kick the wiki. For his name is Douglas Sirk. So let's read. What is his deal? What's his deal? Douglas Sirk. You know, I have a million tabs. Okay, we read Fanny Hearst. Let me close that down. Okay, keep it a little. Okay, Douglas Sirk, here I am. All right. Everybody here? No trolls coming back? Okay. I'll double check every now and then with that. Okay, Douglas Sirk. He was born Hans Detlef Sirk in 1897. There we are, 1800s, everybody. There you are. He was a German film director, best known for his work in Hollywood melodramas of the 1950s. Sirk started his career in Germany as a stage and screen director, but he left for Hollywood in 1937 after his Jewish wife was persecuted by the Nazis. In the 1950s, he achieved his greatest commercial success with film melodramas, Imitation of Life, All That Heaven Allows, Written on the Wind, Magnificent Obsession, and A Time to Love and A Time to Die. While those films were initially panned by critics as sentimental women's pictures, they are today widely regarded by film directors, critics, and scholars as masterpieces. So I, again, want us to look at the words. They consider Imitation of Life a masterpiece. His work is seen as critique of the bourgeois in general and of the 1950s America in particular. So that's what had to happen to kick off the civil rights movement, was to attack 1950s America and the moral code that you saw in that time period, which they kind of depicted as a more innocent decade. And there was a lot of rebellion from the young people, you see? So you see how these things are built up. So here's a man from Germany who was writing about basically a critique of the bourgeois in general of 1950s America. How would he know? He's from Germany. What would give him his knowledge of this other than, studying it? But I'm just saying, like, that's kind of strange to me. It struck me as strange. Okay, so while painting a compassionate portrait of characters trapped by social conditions, okay, beyond the surface of the film, Sirk worked with complex mise en scene, which means, I'm going to hyperlink that. Mise en scene is the stage design and arrangement of actors and scenes for a theater or film production, both in visual arts through storyboarding, visual theme, and cinematography, and in narrative storytelling through direction. Okay, so, and lush technicolor. So when you think of color pictures, it was a technology. So they were, leaking out technology to subtly underline his statement. So color is used to underline his statements. Okay, so there you are. His father was of Danish parentage. His father was a newspaper reporter. So there you are, the media. Okay, he went to study law at the University of Munich, and then he went, he went to work or write for his father's newspaper. Okay, so then he went to the University of Jena. That's in also Germany. And then he went to Hamburg University again. Or no, that was his first one. And guess who he met when he was there? Albert Einstein. Okay, so what else did I want to bring up? He started to go into, oh, this is what I wanted you to notice, okay? He became lost in the theater. He began to write essays and, critique artwork, and he just fell in love with theater. He published his own German translation of Shakespeare's sonnets. He translated some of Shakespeare's plays. Okay, so what did Shakespeare say? All the world is a stage. So I want you to look at this connection. And there was something else I wanted to highlight. Let me see. Oh, this is interesting right here. Okay, let's see what you're saying. Let me check in with you. All right, let me go back to it and we'll finish up with him. Okay, so he liked melodramas, okay? And basically, his whole life was a melodrama because his wife, let me go back to this drama that happened, okay, with him. Okay, his ex-wife, oh no, wait, I have other notes. Hold it. Okay, listen. Okay, Cirque, he's a wizard. He's a warlock. I'm telling you. Okay, so he majored in philosophy and history of art. And he focused on mystery plays, okay? This and set design. And the mystery plays are plays in which the message is hidden, the message is concealed. So this is a person who understands how to hide messages in film. Okay, that's very important. So he went into modern expressionist plays, and he did them because they made money. Okay, the melodramas made money. So his ex-wife became a Nazi. Okay, this is like some real fugazi stuff. Okay, so listen to his drama. His ex-wife became a Nazi, and wow, you think your ex was problematic? His became a Nazi. Okay, if that wasn't crazy enough, he remarried a Jewish woman. Then his Nazi ex-wife banned him from seeing his children. That's called parental alienation. And women, you really need to stop doing that if you're alienating your children because of some bad marriage, okay? So this is nothing new under the sun. She was doing this, okay? And let's see. So he wasn't getting parental visitation. His son goes on to become a leading child actor in Nazi Germany, doing Nazi plays. Is that some drama for you? All right, so this is like I said, this timeline is bugging out. It really is bugging out, and it just keeps jumping the shark. Does it not? It just keeps jumping the shark. So let's see. It was something else I wanted to read. I'll come back to it. Okay, so let me go back. Crazy, right? Is that crazy? Craziness. I think this might be a long one if you guys want to hang out. So I don't have to do two. I'll just let it continue. It'll be, you just watch it in parts and hang out if you can. So this is the guy who brought us Imitation of Life in film version. Okay? You said he's a damn alien. Is that drama, Johnny? You thought you had drama? How many people can say their ex-wife turned into a Nazi? Like a real Nazi, not just one we just say Nazi. Okay? So, keep going. You say keep going. Okay, I'm going to keep going for those that can hang out, because I'm going to hang out. because this stuff is really exciting. Okay, so here we are. We're going to look at just a couple of posters for Imitation of Life, and I want you to note this is the first one with Claudette Colbert. I wonder if she's any relation to Colbert, huh? Our Colbert, Stephen. I'm not sure. And then you can see how, okay, notice, you know, these are the very people who always cry racism, racism, racism. But do you see anybody black in Imitation of Life on the poster? So this was when they first released it, and you can see Claudette Colbert is the main, you know, the main feature here. But I think that, yeah, they probably got a few letters, and look, they had to add the black woman on the cover, isn't of the more modern, you know, promotion. They're so funny. So this is in Italian. So this even, like I said, it was so important for this movie to go all over the world. Do you think it was that good that it should have been taken all over the world? Hey, Locked for Life, you're hanging. Yes. You said, Vincent said, the exes always turn to Nazi. Your exes always become Nazis. Oh no. Not good. Okay, not good. Just BLM and Antifa. Your exes turn into BLM or Antifa. I hope not. Oh gosh. So we can see the programming, and it's even in, is that German? I guess. And then you can see they even do the 2-movie special. I mean, they really want you to see this movie. This is big. And then you can see more. It looks just like some of those romance novels, all the drama. Okay, so you get to see that this is some kind of big deal. They really wanted to program us. Okay, so here we are. I want to read to you a little bit. Oh, I think I see another Russian bot. Let me block that bot. They write something kind of weird. Okay, so the Russian bots are really a thing, okay? All right, so let me read. Let me go to, let's kick the wiki. We're going to kick the wiki. The wiki that is in Imitation of Life. Let me play a little Imitation of Life so you can get a little feel for it. Let's see. I'll have to look for that one. I won't do that one because I have to look for my little timestamps. I don't want to hold this up. Let me read from Wiki like I initially was going to do. Okay, Imitation of Life according to Wiki. Okay, Imitation of Life is, oh, that's the 1950 version. I want to get the other version, 1959. I'll read it anyway. Okay. Oh, no. Let me see if I can go find the 1934. Because I just want to see what they're going to say. Hang on. Okay. So I pulled up the other one. Let me go to it. Victoria, you're so sweet. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to the 1934 Wikipedia description. All right, it's lined up correctly. Okay. So, Imitation of Life, 1934 film. It's an American drama, and it's based on Fanny Hearst's 1933 novel of the same name. And it stars Claudette Colbert, Louise Beavers, Warren William, Rochelle Hudson, and Freddie Washington. Okay. Now, this is what I wanted you to see. In 2005, Imitation of Life was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry, being deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. It was also named by Time in 2007 as one of the 25 most important films on race. The film was nominated for Best Picture, Best Assistant Director, Best Sound Recording at the 7th Academy Awards. So, do you think this was so important that the Library of Congress, this is Congress here. So Congress has a library. Wonder if you could just pop in. I never gave this much thought to why they would have a library. Does anybody understand why Congress has a library? What is that about? And for both of these films, the 1934 and the 1959 version were selected to be preserved in the National Film Registry. Okay. I don't see this being that culturally relevant as a movie. So we are being told that it is. And I see a lot of stuff here. Okay, so let's go back to. So this is initially, I'm going to go kind of back to the future. Okay, so this is the 1959 version of the film, who had Lana Turner. And this is when the two women first meet at the Atlantic City boardwalk at the beach. The two children are playing, and the white mother, she loses her daughter for a moment, and she's really frantically looking for her daughter. And the black woman, who goes by Delilah, took care of the little girl. It was very busy on the beach, and they had some really creepy guy taking pictures of everybody, so it was kind of weird. But she stepped in and cared for the little girl and let the police, I think, know that she was lost. So that's how they meet. And this is probably, I'm just going to show a couple of things just to show you the sort of drama here. Is this black mother gave birth to this daughter, and she had a problem because the father abandoned them. The father was not white, but he was very light. She says that. She makes a real strong point to tell people that he's not white, y'all. He just looks white. So her daddy abandoned them. So she was looking for housing, and she was really desperate. So she must have really seen this lady and just thought that she could appeal to her sense of mercy. I see the troll is back. So I got rid of the troll. Okay, so this is the daughter is definitely cruel towards her mother. And you can see Lana Turner, they changed it. They changed this a lot, and we'll see why they manipulated this movie to re-release it. In this re-release, Lana Turner is an independent woman in terms of she is striving to make her way in Hollywood and Broadway. She wants to be a famous actress, and she wants to be able to support her child. And she's got a lot of independent ideas. She's a widow. So you can see that the black woman's daughter is looking on. And something I noticed is that she quickly started to feel like she wanted the life of the little white daughter and her mother. And she was ashamed of her black mother. And when her black mother goes to the school, because it was a storm, and she brought her little, boots to school, the little girl hid her face when she saw her black mother coming to the school. She hid her face and in a book, and she was very ashamed of her mother. So basically, Let me see. I'm blocking that user. Okay. Hopefully they are blocked. Okay, so she was ashamed of her mother and it was a big eruption emotionally. She ran out of the school and she was, basically her mother knew that she was passing. So she asked the little girl, "Are you passing?" And they keep, I guess, leaving places because this is the stuff that keeps happening. So you can see how she is, the mother is so loyal to Lana Turner's character. She's just such a loyal, caretaker, and she puts everybody first, before herself. And this is a little cringe. She's just so eager to take care of this woman, and you know she's rubbing her feet, and you can imagine the daughter is already feeling shamed. And this is just, it's really like this person really understands how to manipulate the emotions, the person who wrote this book, because it really does pull on your heartstrings, even though this is being done to manipulate you. I have to say, when I rewatched these movies, it was pulling on me a little bit, just the whole idea of it. And this is really sad because it's like the rejection of a mother. So the daughter has, gone off and she wants to live her life as a white woman, and her mother is just ruining it for her. She had to, go and do burlesque, and, and she got beat up by her white boyfriend, and she just had a hard time of it. But she just thinks that if she can live in a white world and be considered white, that she will be successful and happy. So that's the thing about this whole issue of passing. It's all about ascending the social ladder, and also trying to achieve happiness through a white identity. And it's also to get material, gain. So this was the boyfriend who found out that she was Black, and he beat her up like in an alley and just left her, and it was really, really sad scene. And as the rejection occurred, the mother just couldn't take it anymore. This daughter hurt her over and over. And there could be people out there that have daughters, or you have done this to your mother. You've been cruel to your mother, or, your daughter is cruel to you. This hurts any mother, regardless of your race or ethnicity or anything. When a daughter does the rejection and does things like that, it is heartbreaking. It's a level of heartbreak that nobody will know unless they go through it. Okay. So basically, she dies of a broken heart because of the rejection from this daughter. And her funeral, she was just so obsessed with her funeral, which is really strange because her obsession was basically to have a big funeral and, for the Negro people to see her. And basically, this is a lot of pride, but she wants it in her death. She pretty much has given up on life, but she wants to have a big funeral. So at her funeral, none other than Mahalia Jackson sings. And when I tell you, Mahalia Jackson will sing your baby hairs off, okay? She was known as like a high priestess in terms, and I find this interesting that they use the term high priestess. So she is known as a high priestess. And let me see what else was interesting about her that I notated from their description of her. I think for now, that's pretty crazy to be called the high priestess. And she can sing. That's all I know. So basically, she was used a lot during the civil rights. So I want you all to see the different players that were on the stage during the civil rights movement. So this was basically the saddest thing. When she came back after she learned that her Black mother died of a heartbreak, she says, "I killed my mother." And that was like gut-wrenching to hear her acknowledge. And it's just, to me, I think that it's also a very strong message about matricide, the killing of mother, like the hatred of mother. Like there's something so deep. I won't get into the deepness of it, but it's just something was just so powerful about this scene. But she basically broke her mother's heart. Now, the two actresses that were big in these movies would be Claudette Colbert. That's her with the amazing baby hairs there. Look at them baby hairs. And then you have Lana Turner, rather. So they were glamorous icons during that time period. And now we're going to go back to the future. Okay. So now this is the 1934 version. And it began with the mother. Again, she comes into this woman's home and she just sells herself really hard because she's very desperate for a place to live with her daughter. And it's just a sad little moment, but she really appeals to this woman. You could see she's very desperate and she really loves her daughter. I think she's obsessive over her daughter, and it's just like close to being worship. I could be wrong. What do you think? So she's just so attentive to this daughter. And this is Freddie Washington, who plays her daughter here. And you can see this is as she got older. And you can just see the way the mother just glares, just lovingly at her. But Shawnee, you like that? Those amazing, they were popping, those baby hairs. Okay. I've never seen any like that. I wonder what kind of paste she put in there. So, and this is, again, you can see her looking up. It's like, you can see this actress, she was really good, really, really good at playing this role. And this is, this actress with Claudette Colbert's character. And this is what happened. Claudette Colbert was a widow. Still, they kept that the same. And she was trying to find a way to support herself as well. So she was selling syrup. And Delilah had a family recipe for pancakes, and she shared it with Claudette Colbert. And they really they skimmed over trying to show her as being conniving, but really you could see that she was not so much conniving as she was just had this really good business acumen, so she could show the Black woman how to make money with this recipe. Thank you, John. Got rid of the troll. And yes, colorism is the worship. It really is. I'm glad you said that. I recognize that too. Dippity do. Maybe that's how she got those. Yes, yes, yes. So she opened this restaurant and they became, rich with this recipe. So you can see 32 million packages sold. And this is Aunt Delilah's pancake flour. So they got big with it. And you can see how she's just she's in the background, Delilah. And she's watching Claudette Colbert's character go off and have romance. And, she just puts herself last. It's like she's asexual, and I'll talk about that more. And you can see this is the moment in which she, I don't know. She's just looking at Claudette Colbert. It looks like a lot of worship. I don't know. It's just sad. And this is another scene of her rubbing Claudette Colbert's feet. And this is the sad scene when her daughter, played by Freddie Washington, who's trying to escape her Blackness. She's living as a white woman. She ran away, and her mother found out that she was somewhere, I think, was it in Los Angeles or somewhere? And she flew out, I think, to see her. I could be mixing the two movies up, but she goes to see her daughter, who was, I think this is where she was working in the burlesque stuff. Isn't that what it was? So she got so angry at her mother for blowing her cover. She was passing, and her mother kept telling her that she had to be true and not tell lies. So this was a constant struggle for these two. And it was, it's a shameful thing if a daughter doesn't love her mother. So here's her friend who's very, very sweet to her. They have a sweet friendship. And, Delilah's telling her how she's been rejected for the last time, and she realizes she has to really let her daughter go and stop chasing after her and begging her to love her. So this is her deathbed, and she's again dying of a broken heart. And now the daughter finds out, and she comes to the funeral, and there she is in the crowd of people. And it was a big crowd for this funeral. And these white women are looking at her like, what is she talking about? She's like, that's my mother. And she runs up to the carriage because it's done like really big. And she's like, I killed my mother, she screams. So this is tragic. So I want to talk about right now, put your drinks down. This is a little bit of a doozy, like I was saying. Okay, so we're going to talk about a trope called the Mammy Trope. Have you heard about the Mammy Trope? This is what people will call a Black woman who just engages with white people, friends with white people, maybe dating white people. This is one of those things that will be thrown at a Black woman, especially in our modern times. There are a lot of people online that call Black women mammies, and there is a stereotypical thing with mammies. They tend to be a little bit fuller, okay, Rubenesque, we could say, and it's like there's this asexual nature to her. She's not seen as a sex symbol. She's seen as a nurturer. She's seen in these tropes as the one that cares for the white children. She just, rubbing the white woman's feet and very subordinate to white people. So this is a trope that's used a lot. They call you Mammy, Betty. You were called Mammy. Well, I mean, I guess it means different things in different groups, but oh, okay. Love, Laugh, Live says one of my siblings called me a white lover. Yeah, so this is what happens. You've probably heard this. Some white people may be aware that Black people are called this by other Black people. When you don't want to stay in the victim mentality, you don't want to obsess over race, you don't want to go along with the narrative, you question the narrative, that's when the names like Mammy are thrown. Uncle Tom, what else? Uncle Tom, Mammy, Bedwench, Coon. And this is what they do to other Black people. So this is the Mammy Trope. I threw Mahalia Jackson in there only because she fits this sort of, I don't know what you want to call it. It's a image or something, I'll say. And here we are, Aunt Jemima. This is where we get Aunt Jemima, the whole inspiration for it, okay? So you can see right here what I'm talking about. And they base it on so-called the slave plantation and all of this kind of stuff. So, and, she speaks with, lower education and things like that, always smiling with a big old smile. And this is a trope. And you can see here the I's in town, honey. Aunt Jemima's pancake flour. So that's how she talks, okay? I's in town, honey. All right. So you can see the woman there. I don't know if that's a Black woman or a white woman in blackface, but she's got lots of pancakes. Looks like she's in a cabin. And look at that chain around her ankle. This is weaponized. And the Black people that look at all white people as your enemy, I suggest that you look at this group of people who have crafted all of this. They have affected and influenced white people as well as black people. And we both have to wake up, and we have to see that we are both being played. Okay. It does look like blackface. It does, right? Because she doesn't look, I don't know, like a, yeah, right. Can you imagine that, Shawnee? They got her chained to the doggone table making pancakes. I tell you. And then there we are. This became a meme. Okay. And this is what has happened to, this is a violent form of media that is weaponized against black women. It really is. And the average white person is not creating this stuff. This has been done very strategically. Okay. You see the Aunt Jemima slide. So this is some kind of book written or music, and you can see all of the Aunt Jemima stuff here. Okay, so you can see the box of pancakes, and you can see how Aunt Jemima goes from, you know, eyes in town, honey, to over here, they made her glamorous, right? So do you see the play that is going on? They've been playing with us. They make her like, you know, she's got a headscarf looking like she was picking cotton in between flipping pancakes. And now they realized they were getting in trouble. So what did they do? They made her glamorous, right? Do you remember when they made her glamorous? So she goes from this to this. Okay, so this is, I'll tell you more about it. Cancel culture, thank you. And cancel culture canceled Aunt Jemima from the syrup bottle. What's up with that? Exactly. What's up with that? We're going to figure it out together. And here are what you call Mammy dolls. Okay, hey, who has Mammy dolls in their house? Would you like to admit to it? Who has Mammy dolls? You can admit it. It's all love. Anybody have any Mammy dolls in their house? It doesn't have to be just a white woman. Anybody could have Mammy dolls, okay? This was a real popular thing. Do you all know about Mammy dolls, or have you seen Mammy dolls anywhere in anybody's house? You won't be put on a list. It's just something I want to bring up, okay? So you realize how this all ties together, okay? It is weaponized. Okay, so you can see all the various mammies. This is all Aunt Jemima. Okay, Mammy dolls. Now I'm gonna tell y'all, you better not buy me no Mammy dolls. Nobody better, or I'm gonna know what you're up to if you buy me a Mammy doll. That's right, Adam. You will see them in antique shops. Okay, and I'm here in the South, and I happen to be, you know, kind of touring around one day, and I went into this little kind of tucked away antique shop. And when I walked in, it was like everybody went, oh no, black woman. Because guess what? They had so many Mammy dolls for sale. Everywhere, Mammy dolls, Mammy dolls. You get a Mammy doll, you get a Mammy doll. They looked ashamed. So my thing is, listen, you're selling something that you're ashamed of. Maybe you might not want to be selling that, because a black woman could stumble upon your antique shop. Okay. So my thing is like, look, okay. You admit it. You have a Mammy cookie jar. Okay. Come on now. Come through. You said, yikes. That one is scary. Don't make me laugh. They're collectibles. They are. They go for high amounts of money. Okay. This one right here that we're looking at, I bet it's lots of money. Okay. So yeah, there you go. Mammy dolls. Now I want to talk about the black doll test. Have you heard about the doll test? So I want you to see how this is woven into the Imitation of Life. When the little girl in the second version, that's the 1959 version, when she starts playing with the little white girl happened to have a black doll. She had dolls that were white and black. So she hands the black doll to the little girl who's named Paola, And Paola gets angry, and it's an incident where she doesn't want the black doll. Okay, so has anybody ever heard about the black doll thing? And so you can see this started in this movie, and I put it squarely at the feet of Darwin. Okay, so here you are. Now I wonder, why would you have to have a study confusing children and putting dolls in front of their face? This looks like a little boy to me. So you're asking him what doll he prefers. And, you know, I'll just tell you what this whole doll test was. Let me see if I can find the issue with the doll test. Okay, so Brown versus the Board of Education comes up, okay? You can see how this is really, really very, very crafted. Okay, so I'll read it real quick. The doll test. In the 1940s, psychologists Kenneth and Mamie Clark designed and conducted a series of experiments known colloquially as the doll test to study the psychological effects of segregation on African American children. Doctors Clark used 4 dolls, identical except for color, to test children's racial perceptions. Their subjects, children between the ages of 3 to 7, were asked to identify both the race of the dolls and which doll they preferred. A majority of the children preferred the white doll and assigned positive characteristics to it, okay? The Clarks concluded that prejudice, discrimination, and segregation created a feeling of inferiority among African American children and damaged their self-esteem. And they were used to testify in the Brown versus Board of Education. So do you see how, yeah, it's ridiculous, right, Victoria? What in the heck? Gemini says the doll test can be seen on YouTube, and they're as recent as the 1980s. So there's something to this. They've been doing a lot behind the scenes. They have really created this narrative. So the rabbit's foot was a certain thing that came up in this movie. The woman, the black woman, had a rabbit's foot that she kept for good luck. Now I'm bringing it up only because of the hidden meanings and the things that I picked up on this time around looking at these movies. Sinister social engineering. Yes. Hey, Money Honey. Hi there. Thanks for joining. Okay. Yes, it is trauma programming. Yes, it is. Okay. It's very powerful trauma programming. Okay. So does anybody have a rabbit's foot that was handed down to you? Do you have it, or have you ever had a rabbit's foot, or your grandmother or anybody? You know about rabbit's feet? I'll tell you what it is, okay? In some cultures, the foot of a rabbit is carried as an amulet, believed to bring good luck. This belief is held by individuals in a great number of places, including Europe, China, Africa, North and South America. So it says that it's a, you know, superstition, and depend on the rabbit's foot, if you will, but remember, it didn't work for the rabbit. So it's a big thing, okay? And it's tied to magic and hoodoo, okay? And full moon ceremonies and things, okay? Used to be on keychains. Yes, that's right. A chainsaw on keys. Yeah, rabbit's feet. No, wasn't lucky for the rabbit, was it? Yeah, there you are, you know. Okay, so that was something. Now I want to bring something up to you all. All right, that name Jemima. I looked up the name Jemima, because I said, okay, Aunt Jemima. I even worked at a place that, okay, story time. I was working in this it was a nurse case manager. So I worked in a building, like an office building. And this was in Salt Lake City. And I was the only Black nurse. And it was a lot of nurses, a lot of them would talk about their faith. They were Mormon. But one day they did a lot of really weird like things. They were nice, but then it was nice, nasty. Like when I would walk in for my shift, a lot of times like I'd have to walk down this aisle of desks and they would kind of stop a few of them to see me walking down the aisle. And they would criticize or ask me about what I was wearing. And it became really weird. I was like, what is the deal with these women? They were always like doing weird things. Like they call it microaggressions, things like that. Like my daughter, who's a millennial, she'll tell me, oh, those were microaggressions. And these are things that keep Black and white women like at odds. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of weird stuff. But one day, a couple of them were talking near my desk. And you know how people are talking loudly, but they want you to hear? They started talking about Aunt Jemima. And it was like in a weird way, like they were trolling me. And I knew it because they kept saying Aunt Jemima. One of the white women told the other white woman, she was like, you look like Aunt Jemima. And I was like, whoa. And she said it more than one time. So I was like, what is the deal? I said, I had to leave the job because it became actually too hard to bear. I have to say, and I'm not one to play the race card or anything, but it was actually hard to be among these women and be the only Black woman as I was being trolled. Okay. So it does, we got some cleaning up to do. We have some coming together at the table of humanity, and we have to sort this out. Okay. So when I look up the name Jemima, I dare you take your phone and look up Jemima. Do you think that you're going to see a rather full-figured Black woman? Oh no, honey, this is what you're going to see right here, Jemima. This name is the name of all the it girls, okay? The it girls are named Jemima, okay? So I thought this was interesting when I looked this up. So Jemima, the Black girls or melanated women, they are from Africa or not America because, I'm going to tell you something, Black Americans. All of this trying to be African and trying to make up some pseudo culture, it is really seen by Africans as ridiculous. Like Kwanzaa, for instance. No one in Africa has ever acknowledged Kwanzaa. This is an American concoction, and it was done in the 70s or whatever. And I think, is that Messy Jesse's handiwork? Just Messy Jesse Jackson? He may have created Kwanzaa. And Messy Jesse Jackson may have created the term African American. He's a bozo, okay? So meanwhile, Black Americans, while you're trying to get fancy and your kids are named Shaquiqui and Quantarius and all of this made up stuff, no offense to Quartarius and Shaquiqui, but I'm just saying we could have a little fun because that's what it sounds like. Okay, I've had to work in nurseries and hospitals, and I've had to try to figure out how to spell these names. Okay, Quartarius and everything, Shaquiqui. So while you're doing the Shaquiqui, these melanated women in Africa that live in maybe England, they're naming their Black girl Jemima, while you're running around thinking all this craziness because of what happens in American culture, and you think Jemima is a bad name. Now, this is what Jemima comes up. The hot girls, the it girls are named Jemima. And I'm just wondering what is going on. This is what you see when you pull up Jemima. Okay. What do you think about that? Isn't that interesting? This is the imagery of the Jemimas. Okay. Now, what did I write down about Jemima? Basically, we're getting played, okay, by this African cosplay that we engage in. And the parents that are naming their daughters Jemima, they must know something about that. They must know something about the power of a name like Jemima. When you look it up, it's a Hebrew name that means dove. Dove. Isn't that interesting? And I just think it's interesting. It's bigger than I even thought. So you just see how they flipped the spell on this name like Jemima, right? It just got flipped. And I don't know, it just seems to me like there's a bit of hoodoo going on, maybe. I'm not accusing you Jemimas out there. I'm just saying somebody has some knowledge. Their parents that named their children Jemima, they must know something when they named their child Jemima. So, all the fake outrage with the Aunt Jemima pancakes and all that, it's ridiculous. So here you go, more Jemimas. Is that what you would expect someone named Jemima to look like? I didn't know this was going on, that Jemima was a cute, beautiful girl. I'm shocked. So this is a bit of, I don't know, you want to call it alchemy, hoodoo. Oprah Winfrey is probably the most recognized of the Mammy tropes, okay? She plays mammies and very, iconic mammies. But then she flipped her whole image into some glamour girl. I mean, look at Oprah trying to show us her booty. Like, come on, Oprah. I'm just saying, isn't that interesting that she took whatever this is that they did with this Mammy trope and flipped it into the it girl, the Jemima? Like, I don't know. I'm going to, you find that interesting, Sharon? We need to kind of drill down and see what more is going on there, because I just find it very telling. So I want to talk about the funeral procession that happened in the movie and something that I picked up on. Okay, the mother, you know what she said when she was always talking about her funeral that she wanted to have? Did you all pick up on the fact that she told the woman, her friend, she said, I, as a part of, no, she didn't say it that way. Let me stop. She said, I am a member of the Baptist church, okay, and a few lodges, okay? Did you hear that? She was a member of the Baptist church and a few lodges. And I didn't hear that before. How would she be a member of lodges? She, what lodges? Because she didn't say one, she said lodges. So I found that very, yeah, I got him, Raylene, thank you. I found that very telling. Lodges, Eastern Star, there you go. What else would it be, right? Eastern Star, Masons, the women Masons. So would you have thought that this Mammy character would have been a part of a few lodges? Because she did gain money in the first one, because she was, of course, the one who gave her recipes. So she had money. So she had this big funeral, as you can see, with a procession. And anybody who's from Harlem, let us know about these processions, because not everybody gets a funeral where they walk down. It's like what they do in New Orleans to see their dead loved ones off. It's a big thing, but there's a lot more esoterically behind it. So her funeral was all through Harlem, and she had like a horse-drawn carriage. I mean, this was big. That's right, Boulay. So let me go back and show you this. So, it's like this whole aspirational wanting to be like the white people, So this is like a funeral around that time for a white person. So you can see like really important person. And I don't get why people care about what their funeral will be like. It's like, you're not there. I mean, maybe you're there, but who cares anymore about what your funeral will be like, if it'll be big and, all of this stuff. So I'm just thinking that it's part of that aspirational stuff of trying to aspire to this American dream or, be like the white people, because this whole thing is about passing, right? So here are some of the men. If you I couldn't get a good picture, but you can see the men that are walking along the procession. Look at the pins that are on their jackets. Do you see that? Does anybody know what we're looking at? Hi, Wyoming chick. You said Daughters of the Nile is also a Mason organization for the wives and daughters. Thank you. Think Mirror. Yes, in New Orleans at weddings too, called the second line. Thank you. Yes, just like Louisiana, New Orleans. Yes, thank you. So does anybody know what these pins are all about? Anybody? Masonic pins. Thank you. There you are. So did anybody notice that looking at the movie? I sure didn't. And that's what I'm saying. This whole mud flood rabbit hole, it has me seeing things that I weren't seeing. I wasn't seeing them before. So I'm just saying, okay? Yes, select secret societies. Is that the Knights Templar? I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Does anybody know the exact? You say Knights of Columbus, Rose? Hi, Rose. I'm not sure if Black people could join Knights of Columbus. Somebody could let me know. Marcus Garvey. Oh, he wore this kind of stuff, right? I know he wore those kind of hats with the feather. Oh, so you're letting us know something, Marcus Garvey? Well, I'm not Malta Cross. So that's the Cross of Malta. Thank you, Ernestina. Hey, Madeline. I'm just saying, Madeline, it was only until I did the mud floods that I started seeing things. It opened my eyes to a whole lot. So now I'm looking at everything in a different way. I got rid of the troll. Oh, they're coming into the chat like with all kinds of names. Oh, boy. I'm trying to get rid of them as much as I can. Yes, symbology will be their downfall. So once you know the lies, you see everything in a different light. Exactly. Everything. So Abby, you're saying Marcus Garvey was part of a secret society. Wow. And you say the white gloves are Masonic. Okay. Thank you all. But I tell you, she said this in both movies. So they made a point to let us know that she was part of the church. So that's like having your foot in the church and being a part of, she said, lodges, several lodges. So not just one. Trying to get that troll. I could still see their content. So I was just trying to get that. Hey, Betty, I'm helping you, Jennifer. I hope you don't mind. Please help me. And I want to get together with you, Betty, because as I'm doing this research, I would love for you to help me with the research. Abby says your channel has arrived. That's so sweet. Adam, you're dropping a lot of keywords. Okay, maybe I should be, I won't say as many. That might be magnetizing those trolls. Juan says, my view of the world has changed. Yes. The mud flood rabbit hole does open your eyes to all the details. Yes, it was just like this needed another veil taken off. So I am just, I mean, it's amazing to see it. I mean, it's just right there, and this guy, I put a lot on this guy. He thought that he and his ilk would be able to keep this a secret from us. But Charles Darwin, we cancel you and we rebuke you. We see your hand, your hidden hand. You and the other guy, remember the other guy? Let me bring up his name for anybody who wants to study it. The other guy that I notated, remember in our other, but that's in a couple of, John Bideau. John Bideau. If anybody could write that in the chat for anybody who wants to look up John Bideau. In the 1800s, he was the one that came up with racial designations. So these two men, I look at Charles Darwin, that's how we have all this ugly competition, right? And there's no collaboration, but just competition, survival of the fittest. This is all coming from Darwinism. So once we realize the root cause of our problems and we can name these enemies, you're no longer hidden, Bideau. You're no longer hidden, Darwin. We see your handiwork. We see your hidden hand. Yes. So I just want to say that that's part of what I'm starting to realize. So it was really weird in this sense that the Supremes, okay? So Diana Ross and the Supremes, they did a song based on the Imitation of Life. And I'd never knew that. So the Supremes, let me get to that part in my notes. They did an homage to the film in 1969 with a song called I'm Living in Shame. Did you know that was based on the movie Imitation of Life? I'm living in shame. So what is that all about? I'm living in shame. And it's ironic because Diana Ross has like two mixed race daughters, one full, or whatever you could say, full black or whatever, who goes, she's not mixed race in this sense. And she has twin boys that she had with a Greek shipping magnate. And one of her boys is married to Jessica Simpson's daughter. And they have children. And, it's just, it's what it is. It's very swirly. And I just found that interesting that Diana Ross did an homage to Imitation of Life, and she has daughters that are mixed. And this was weird. The group REM in 2001 did an homage called Imitation of Life based on the movie. So isn't that weird? Isn't that kind of strange? REM. And let me tell you, this right here, even though it's goofy, it's a lot of fuckery, but I just want to bring this up in popular culture. If you know anything about this character named Joanne the Scammer, okay? Joanne the Scammer is a guy who dresses up, and he was very popular. I think he had a YouTube channel for a while, and he does funny skits about how he scams and schemes to live a white woman's life. So everything is about being a white woman, and he does, what are some of the things he says? Does anybody know some of his key? Because I haven't seen this stuff in so long, but he's like, always with wanting to be a white woman. And there he is with Amber Rose of all people. So Amber Rose is also, I would say, Imitation of Life-y kind of ish. She has some black parentage. She's from Philadelphia, and she was Kanye's girlfriend before he got with Kim. Just a lot of weird little things going on, right? So you got Joanne the Scammer, who wants to have a white woman's life. So, white women, I know you see the social engineering, because I know a lot of you are like, yeah, I want a white woman's life too, but this is all the social engineers have done this, and we need to just call it out for what it is. Now, I want to tell you, this is my grandmother again. This is Bernice McGee. And she passed. Yes, this is my mother's mother. And she had a lot of mental problems based on her identity. She could pass, and, men used to fetishize her. And that's something that happens with mixed race people, I'll say not just women, but the fetishizing that comes from the black side and the white side. So they become this like exotic thing. And a lot of times it bothers them. It really does. So my grandmother, Bernice McGee, she drank heavily, and she was quite a character. I remember me first meeting her, and I was a little girl playing. I had come back from living in Cuba, and I was playing outside my grandmother's house in West Philly, and I hear this noise and this loud woman like coming around the corner, ah! And I turn and see this woman. She's stumbling all over the place. And she just looks like a white woman to me. And I see her walking up to my grandmother's house. I was like, I was looking like, whoa, what is this all about? And then I was called to come inside the house, and I was introduced to my great grandmother. Okay. There you are, people. So she passed, and then she didn't pass. She did it like she slipped in and out of whiteness whenever it was convenient. But she had a job at Campbell's Soup, across the way, Camden, New Jersey. And she was on the factory floor, and she was working around all white women. And somebody said the N-word. Why did they do that? Bernice McGee went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and she cussed everybody out. And guess what she did before leaving the job? Because she left a lot of jobs, okay? She turned her dress up, pulled her pants down, and mooned everybody with her white butt, okay? She mooned them, okay? It's so many stories about this Bernice McGee. I could write a book about her, but I just wanted to let you know that the passing thing, it really caused a lot of problems for people, and it's a sad thing. And then I have on my dad's side a grandmother here to the right. Her name is Stormy, okay? So she was a society woman in Chicago. Her husband used to own nightclubs. She was a widow. I'd never met her husband, but she adopted my father. And Stormy had a beauty shop. It was well known in Chicago by certain circles. And guess what? Stormy didn't do your hair unless you had a fine texture of hair. So I just want to bring that up because we're going to talk about these issues, because this is what a caste system creates. Okay? It creates a lot of self-hatred, and it also creates sort of a racism within the so-called Black community. So this is where you have the boule, and you have the, light-skinned people looking down on the dark skin, the dark caste, the lower caste. So my grandmother used to do Lena Horne's hair. When Lena Horne was in town in Chicago, Lena Horne was one of her customers. So I just want you to know that this stuff runs very deep with the whole hair texture thing. I mean, I'll talk about that also. They have a whole thing that you can tell the texture of your hair. You can grade it. I mean, do they do that for white women? Grade your texture? Well, that's done to Black women. Again, it's very weaponized, and the whole hair industry is like multi-billion dollars because of Black women and their issues around their hair is very political. It's very weaponized. But again, I won't get into it in detail now. So this woman that you're looking at here was my godmother when I was christened as a baby. She was assigned to me as my godmother. Now, my grandmother Stormy was really good friends with her mother. Her mother's name was Marva, and Marva married Joe Louis. Okay. So my godmother was really the woman that my grandmother wanted my dad to marry. So her name is Jackie. Okay. Jackie Barrow. So that's really who she wanted my dad with, because my dad was going to become a basketball star. He was being drafted by the Pistons, and that's one of the directions that he was thinking about going into. So I'm just saying, like, this is what the boule does. They line up your wife. So she comes from a pedigree, a black pedigree, her father being Joe Louis, her mother also being a socialite. And so this was something that, my dad chose my mother, for whatever reason. He chose my mother. And then Jackie became my godmother. So I just wanted to tell you that it's just really crazy. So you can see my Aunt Jackie with, her parents. You can see Joe Louis. These are pictures that were around, her home. She has since passed away. So that's me and Aunt Jackie. And you can see me as a little baby. My parents had moved from Philly to Chicago, and then they moved to Gary, Indiana. And that's where she was visiting us. She was always around. And, I loved my godmother, we were very close. She never had children. And yeah. And then there's these guys. So I kind of wanted to end on that. But let's see, what are you guys up to? What's up? That was a long one. We went 2 hours, another 2 hours. So let's see. Anybody got anything they want to say? I just wanted to go through this because it was a lot. I picked up a lot. Let's see. Sean, you were born in Philly? Awesome. Look at that. Very nice. Very nice. Locked for Life says, I cut the perm off. Yes, a lot of us melanated women, we don't do the perms, the relaxers anymore. That's terrible. I haven't had a relaxer in 20 years, I think. I cut the perm off, been rocking all natural hair. A lot males think, a lot of males thank you. I see. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. So, I just wanted to share that this Imitation of Life and the connection to the civil rights movement. And I now see that this stuff has been engineered and we've been played. We really have. And we're going to have to get to the bottom of this because it is completely engineered. And a caste system always creates someone, who is at the top, and then their standard of beauty is the standard of beauty. And it can, competition and envy and jealousy, and it causes a whole lot of problems. So this is the problem that caste systems and this group, they've gone all around the world creating caste systems. In India, they've created caste systems. In Latin America and all through the Caribbean, you have caste systems. In Brazil, they have a whole thing called blanqueamento. And that's when the black grandmother encourages her daughter to get a white man so that the family blood will be whitened and lightened. I have a friend from Haiti. She's very fair, and her brown mother, like me, she encouraged them all to marry white because she believes that the passage in the Bible where it says he will lighten our darkness, she takes it to mean you better put a little more milk in the coffee, lots of milk in the coffee, whiten the race. So it is a sickness, okay? A real sickness. And, it is, even my mom, I have to chastise her. My mom is a light-skinned woman, and, the older she gets, she looks more like an Italian or something. Sometimes if I'm out in public and I'm out with my mom and all the little white ladies, I have to strain to find my mom because she just blends in. And she's grown up in Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, with all these women just like her. She has sisters, and one of her sisters looked just like Lena Horne. And, my mother will say things and I have to chastise her. It's so funny. I'm like, hello, you had me, brown kid, because she'll say some things that are doozies, but that's how women in her age group, they've been programmed. You know what I'm saying? Very programmed. I mean, like, imagine this. Like she said, don't get mad at her, but this is kind of funny. But when somebody has a light-skinned child, and it may not be as attractive, she'll say, her generation will say, that was a lot of yellow that went to waste. Can you imagine? That's a cringe fest. I'm like, don't say that, Mom. Don't say that. But that's how a lot of little older light-skinned Black women are. They say stuff like that, and it's just crazy how they grew up. My mother went to parties my father couldn't go. They did the brown paper bag test. If you were darker than a brown paper bag, you weren't allowed. You weren't allowed in. Okay. So this is in West Philly, they were kind of uppity. My mother always says, oh, the prettiest Black women lived in West Philly. And my mom's sisters were so pretty that guys would drive down the street just to see if they could catch them out on the porch. It was just like they were known for being really beautiful. My grandfather, he opened a store. He had like a little store, and it was like he had fountains, like soda fountains, and the store would be empty. It was like nobody would come in. And they found out that the women in the neighborhood told their husbands they better not go to that store. So it was like this envy about these young girls. They didn't want their husbands down there. So, it's weird how things are affected, because of this stuff. But, it is something that once we identify where it starts and the root cause, we should be able to expose it. And some of us need a lot of healing, a whole lot of healing, and just to educate ourselves, uneducate ourselves from these programs. And, it's just one of those things. And then hair is an obsession. I have a new grandson, and my mom will talk to my daughter, and it's like one of the first questions, like, how's his hair doing? How's his hair doing? That's like the programming. Okay. So we got, and I always tell my mom, no, we're not doing that. Stop being light skinned. Stop being light skinned. We just laugh about it because, I've always like gotten on to her about it. So that's just, that's this imitation of life, right? What in the world? Right, Abby? What are you going to do with her? So that's it for you said I'm with the healing. That's right. We have to be with the healing. And it's uncomfortable to talk about these things. It can be shameful. And we have to take the shame away from it and talk so we can learn and grow and destroy. It's like a demolition, construction. We're talking about architecture. And what do those secret societies talk about? The great architect. So they're building constructs. Okay. Some of them you can't see. They're not, well, we know they weren't building those buildings, right? They're building a whole bunch of constructs. That's what they're building. They're building social constructs. So we have to be the demolition crew. And as they took down the Tartarian Empire in the architecture, we're taking down their fake house of cards. Okay? Look at it that way. We are the demolition team. I'm here to take down all of it. The boule, I have it in for the boule. I can't stand what they have done to Black people. And I've grown up with a lot of this stuff. It's very hurtful, and it's mental. It's a mental disorder. It really is. It's sick. So, that's it for now. I've gone pretty long. I thank you for all of your support. And again, let's see what you're saying. Let's see. Betty, yes, we have all shades in my family. One son will pass as white. One son will pass as light tone, Black, but it's more than I can look. Native with reddish tone, dark tone. I'm a lizard. I change. I love it. I love it. And for the women who have mixed race children, I know that a lot of times you may not understand about the texture of hair. If you kind of thought your child would come out a certain way and your child came out with a big afro and you're like, I don't know what to do with this thing, because I'm a barber, so I saw a lot of that in Salt Lake City. I saw white women come in with these sons with this afro. And one of the first things I would tell the little boy when he sat in my chair, I would tell him, I love your hair. And I meant it. I wasn't being facetious. I would just tell them, I love your hair. It is a beautiful, beautiful texture. And you know what? They would look at me like, really? Because unfortunately, in some white families, when a woman has a mixed race child and her family hasn't accepted that mixed race child, they go through a lot. So it's a lot of healing that's needed. That's the conversation we have to have for the white people. You all have to come to some realizations about your programming, and Black people, your programming, and mixed race people, your programming. Okay. And we're going to talk about this as we go forward, but a lot has to be taken, into consideration, and we can all learn. I try to help white mothers that can't do the hair. They don't know what to do. Have you heard that video where the white woman has that? She says, you guys are holding back on the butters. Like, she just learned about cocoa butter and shea butter. She's like, you didn't tell me about the butters. Do you remember that? It was real funny. But if you want to share your info, like, we have to be more loving. Don't be at odds when you see a white woman with a mixed race baby. Don't be mad at her. We have to embrace, all of us have to embrace each other. And if we can help her, or we could pass along, you want to, maybe teach her how to do the hair of the baby, you can do that. This is all part of the little things we can do to start connecting and being a human family, and learning. So you remember that, Gemini? There's so many funny things that have come through. There was one funny thing, I should have found it, where the little girl, there was a little white girl, and she said, I'm a strong Black woman. Do you guys remember that? She kept telling her parents she was a strong Black woman. It was so funny. So that's it for now. Thank you for coming by. And if you want to tip your hostess, there you are. I want to thank you for your love and your support. And guess what? I have a Cash App now, because you guys got on me. You don't like PayPal. So if anybody likes PayPal, that's PayPal, or Cash App is just Jenny Eason. Okay. So I will see you all possibly tomorrow. I'm going to look at some of the things that are swirling around, and I'll let you know. Swirling. What a funny choice of words. But I thank you, love you all, and we're going to continue demolishing the false constructs. Okay. Destiny said, we are all God's children, red and yellow, Black and white. They are precious in his sight. Thank you. Hey, Frank, let's go. Thank you. Much love. All right. Good night, everybody. Take care.